Economic turmoil in the UK, a historical perspective. The United Kingdom has a long and complex economic history, marked by cycles of prosperity, decline, recovery, and instability. From the rise and fall of the British Empire to the modern challenges of globalization and austerity measures, the UK's economy has weathered significant storms throughout the centuries. Economic turmoil in the UK has been influenced by a variety of internal and external factors, including political decisions, wars, global economic trends, and social shifts. In this video, we will explore the major periods of economic upheaval in the UK, offering a historical perspective on how these crises have shaped the nation's economy and society. The early economic challenges, the fall of the British Empire. To understand the roots of economic turmoil in the UK, one must begin with the fall of the British Empire. At its peak, the British Empire was the largest in history, spanning vast territories across the globe. This dominance allowed the UK to control significant resources, global trade routes, and colonial wealth, fueling its industrial and economic power. However, after 2 world wars, the empire began to crumble. The costs of maintaining the empire, coupled with growing nationalist movements in colonies, led to decolonization after World War II. The dismantling of the British Empire during the mid-20th century left the UK economically vulnerable. Its once thriving international trade network was significantly disrupted, and the country struggled to redefine itself as an economic power. The loss of resources, markets, and imperial revenues set the stage for a period of economic instability in the post-war years. The post-war economic crisis. The aftermath of World War II left the UK deeply in debt, with much of its infrastructure damaged and its economy in shambles. In the early years of the post-war period, the UK was forced to rely on loans from the United States and international financial institutions to rebuild. The government of Clement Attlee, which came to power in 1945, embarked on ambitious reforms, including the nationalization of key industries and the establishment of the National Health Service, NHS. Despite these efforts to stimulate economic growth, the UK faced serious challenges during the 1950s and 1960s. The economy was slow to recover, and inflation remained high. The 1960s were marked by industrial unrest, with strikes and labor disputes common in key sectors. These disruptions, combined with declining industrial productivity and competition from emerging economies, weakened the UK's economic standing on the global stage. The 1967 devaluation of the pound sterling was one of the most significant events of this period. The government under Harold Wilson devalued the pound by 14%, hoping to boost exports. However, this move was seen as a sign of weakness, and the UK's economic woes deepened. The 1970s, the age of stagflation. The 1970s were a decade of profound economic turmoil for the UK, marked by the phenomenon of stagflation, a combination of high inflation, high unemployment, and stagnant economic growth. The global oil crisis of 1973, caused by an embargo by OPEC, Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, led to skyrocketing oil prices, which fueled inflation. In the UK, this led to severe economic stagnation. The government, under Prime Minister Edward Heath, struggled to contain inflation while also addressing rising unemployment. The industrial sector, once the backbone of the British economy, faced increasing challenges with strikes, rising costs, and labor unrest reaching new heights. The infamous Winter of Discontent in 1978–79, marked by widespread strikes across public and private sectors, underscored the difficulties the UK was facing in managing its economy. The Labour government, led by James Callaghan, who succeeded Wilson, was caught between the need for economic austerity and the demands of trade unions. As inflation continued to spiral, the UK was forced to seek an emergency loan from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in 1976. This marked a significant moment in British economic history, as it signaled the UK's economic dependence on external creditors and its failure to manage its own fiscal policy effectively. The 1980s, austerity and the rise of Thatcherism. The 1980s saw a shift in the UK's economic strategy, with the election of Margaret Thatcher in 1979. Thatcher, leader of the Conservative Party, championed a policy of monetarism, which emphasized reducing inflation through tight control of the money supply, reducing government spending, and privatizing state-owned industries. Thatcher's policies, which became known as Thatcherism, were deeply controversial. On one hand, they succeeded in curbing inflation and reducing the power of trade unions, which had been a significant source of economic instability in the previous decade. On the other hand, her policies led to significant social unrest, particularly in regions where industries were privatized or closed down. The coal mining industry, in particular, faced devastating job losses, leading to the 1984-85 miners' strike, one of the most intense industrial conflicts in British history. The 1980s were also marked by the emergence of the financial sector as a major player in the UK economy, particularly in London. The Big Bang of 1986, which deregulated the London Stock Exchange, transformed London into a global financial hub. While this spurred economic growth in the short term, it also led to an increase in wealth inequality, as financial services and speculative investments played a larger role in the economy. The 2008 global financial crisis. The early 21st century saw the UK become increasingly integrated into the global financial system. However, this dependency also made the country vulnerable to global economic shocks. The 2008 global financial crisis, triggered by the collapse of Lehman Brothers and the ensuing credit crunch, was one of the most severe economic crises the UK had faced since the Great Depression. The financial sector, which had grown significantly over the previous decades, was at the heart of the crisis. Banks, heavily invested in subprime mortgage markets in the United States, faced severe losses, leading to a banking bailout by the UK government. The crisis also led to a deep recession, with the UK economy shrinking by over 6% in 2009. Unemployment soared, and the government was forced to implement austerity measures to stabilize the economy, including cuts to public services and welfare. The austerity policies, initiated by the Conservative Liberal Democrat coalition government under David Cameron, were highly controversial. Critics argued that they disproportionately affected the most vulnerable members of society, while proponents claimed that they were necessary to reduce the national debt and restore economic stability. The Brexit crisis, uncertainty and economic challenges. In 2016, the UK's decision to leave the European Union, known as Brexit, marked another pivotal moment in the country's economic history. The Brexit referendum result led to immediate market volatility, a sharp depreciation of the pound, and increased economic uncertainty. Since the referendum, the UK has faced ongoing challenges in managing its post-Brexit economy. The country's trade relationships with the EU have been reshaped, leading to disruptions in supply chains, changes in immigration policies, and a reorientation of trade towards non-EU countries. The COVID-19 pandemic further complicated the economic situation, leading to an unprecedented public health crisis and a massive economic downturn. Economic resilience and future challenges. Throughout its history, the UK has faced numerous economic crises, from the fall of the British Empire to the global financial crisis of the 21st century. While each period of turmoil has had unique causes and effects, they have collectively shaped the UK's economic landscape, forcing the country to adapt and find new ways to rebuild and recover. Today, the UK faces a range of challenges, including the ongoing effects of Brexit, economic inequality, and the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. Yet, its history of resilience in the face of economic adversity offers hope for the future. As the UK navigates the complexities of a post-Brexit world, it will need to draw on the lessons of its past, embrace innovation, and find new ways to secure economic stability in an increasingly interconnected and uncertain global economy. Ultimately, the history of economic turmoil in the UK serves as a reminder that while the country has faced many crises, it has always found ways to endure and rebuild. How the UK responds to the current challenges will determine its future economic trajectory. But one thing is certain: the story of the UK's economic struggles is far from over. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.